even my mom is not really sure what that is. So it's basically we design the lighting part of a building or a site. So we think about a space, who's going to be in it, what they're going to do. We create a way to see, and we look at the human activity. And we also enhance the architecture. So what's a day in the life? So I go to meetings, I make drawings, I think about where the light is incorporated into the building. And I also choose, what light we're going to use. So the other thing is we study how the sun moves. So I work with both electric light and daylight, and also darkness. So darkness is very important, so also preserving darkness. So the other thing is, it's sort of an art and a science. So we do kind of lots of high-tech simulations and calculations. So it's a little bit of an obscure profession. So how did I get into it? So it starts in Japan. I lived in Japan for many years as a college student. And just like any other college student, although I was living in Japan, I faced problems just like any other college student. So there was a time that I was sort of feeling down. And one of the things I was doing in Japan is I was also into hand paper making. So I was into paper. And I had this friend of mine named Yamauchi, and I was feeling down, and he came over one day, and he gave me this light that he made out of paper and wood. It was very simple, very beautiful. So I put it in my room, and I would just look at it, and it just made me feel better. It just uplifted me and had a big impact. So the title of this presentation was Lighting and the Blues. So it kind of has a double meaning. So blues, feeling down, but also blue light. So in architectural lighting, we mainly deal with white light, but within white light, there's all different types of spectral compositions. So all white is not created equal. So as far as the spectrum, it could have an influence on your physiology, and in particular, blue light. But we won't get too deep into that. But different wavelengths affect us. Our bodies sort of absorb that. So I returned to New York City, and then immediately I went into lighting. I was working in lighting design. I was making light sculptures, and I even sort of started using paper again. I went to get a master's in lighting at an architecture school. So I just, sort of really went deeper into it. And pre-9/11, I did many designs for high-end fashion stores. So if there's three things that can uplift my mood, it's design, fashion, and lighting. But not 9/11. So that's another thing. That did not uplift me. So in my profession, I really become a practitioner of space and awareness and mood and how that affects us. So I often walk around and I'm always looking at things and looking at the direction of light, the amount of light. And, as I mentioned, it's an art and a science. So I've given a lot of talks about visual perception and color science and human physiology. And I've even brought lighting into my meditation practice. So I created some meditation villages for some art festivals right in this building, like Ingenuity and Dreamers Hall. And I incorporated lighting. And even now I wonder if people enjoyed the meditation or was it just the lighting? I'm not really sure. But I definitely sort of brought that into other parts of my life. So basically, I'm someone who, I know definitely more than your typical person about color science and physiology and our human response. I'm not a scientist myself, but just the nature of what I do with lighting. It's very scientific. But in designing spaces, I know that all of those metrics, they never really can tell you everything. So spaces, architectural spaces, they're different than images. So we experience them over time. We exist in spaces. So they're not sort of flash perceptions. So our bodies exist within them. And again, as I mentioned before, our bodies also react in different ways to wavelengths. So as designers, we sort of create these vessels. And it is my hope that the vessels that I help create are also uplifting.
Yeah.